The world of Adventure Time is full of strange and powerful beings, but not all of them exist on the same level. Some are mortal heroes who push their limits, others are ancient magicians and elemental forces that shape the world itself. Above them stand the cosmic entities who oversee life, death, and time, and beyond even those are the abstract forces that define reality. However, every story in Ooo begins with mortals, the heroes, warriors, and adventurers who shape the land through their own strength and willpower. They might not command the elements or bend time, but their actions changed history and inspired entire generations. To understand what power means for a mortal in Adventure Time, we have to start with Billy, because in many ways, he's where the deeper lore of Adventure Time truly starts. Before Billy appeared, the world of Ooo felt mysterious but lighthearted. We had already seen the Enchiridion, the legendary book of the heroes, but just like Finn, we didn't realize its importance at the beginning. The very first time when the show revealed that this world had legends, ancient threads, and heroes whose deeds shaped everything that came after was in the episode of His Hero, the very first time when Billy appeared. Billy is one of the most interesting characters in the whole Adventure Time series. Even though we've seen fairly a lot of him, compared to other mysterious characters, we still know so very little about him. We don't even know what Billy is. We don't see much backstory of his existence on Adventure Time. Like, is he a mutated human or a new being similar to a human? Interestingly enough, his large and unusual hands contain 6 fingers, including the thumb, though most humanoids in Ooo possess 4-fingered hands. In his youth, Billy had a reputation as a powerful warrior in the land of Ooo. He was known for impressive feats, such as recruiting Cotton Candy Princess from the Fire Count, slaying an evil ocean, and fighting a giant bear. Around this time, Billy dated Canyon, and the power couple often went on motorcycle rides while fighting monsters. Billy's greatest accomplishment as a warrior was when he defeated the Lich before it could destroy Ooo with the unholy power gathered from the Earth's life force. The hero was then able to trap the Lich in an amber prison by pummeling it into the resin of the pinnacle of the Candy Castle. Despite his fame and accomplishments as a hero, Billy began to believe that the task of fighting evil was futile, as new evil would always arise later on. The hero soon developed a void in his being and lost hope in heroism. Instead, he began to favor non-violent solutions to evil and was an advocate of active community involvement. In Billy's bucket list, Canyon explains that Billy's loss of belief was the reason why the two eventually severed their relationship. However, with the help of Finn and Jake, Billy gained renewed hope in the heroic cause and began to fight evil once again. Although Billy was a formidable force during his youth, his old age and long period of inaction may have contributed to his demise at the hands of the Lich during its return in The Lich. After killing the hero, the Lich used Billy's body as a gruesome costume by wearing his corpse. The Lich uses this disguise to trick Finn into opening a wormhole with the Enchiridion. Billy's death was confirmed by Prismo in Finn the Human and later in Billy's bucket list. Billy seems to have the role of the hero in every universe. The only alternate version of Billy that we see in the series is Bobby from Farm World Universe. In this universe, Billy, or Bobby, is a medium-height, tan-skinned male human adult. Like Billy, he wears a band on his head bearing a blue gem at nose height. His hair seems to be a faded white, and his outfit matches one of a knight. We do not actually know if Billy survived this universe like the other characters or not, but given the fact that in every universe that we see him in, Billy is always destined to die by evil, even though in Season 1 he told Finn he wanted to stop fighting and retire. In the original universe, he is gruesomely murdered by the Lich. In the vampire world, we can see their bites all over his body, so I do not think that Bobby had any luck considering the fates of his other universe's counterparts. One of the things that always intrigued me about Billy was the blue gem that he has on his nose. In every single depiction of him, whether magical or normal, we see Billy wearing a band on his head bearing a blue gem at nose height. We don't really know what this is or how Billy got it in the first place. The only thing that we actually do know about it is that it's necessary to use the Enchiridion's secret power to open the portal to other universes. Other gems that are required to open belong to various crowns such as Ice Kings, Princess Bubblegums, Emerald Princesses, etc. Billy being the exception, but his gem has a different usage compared to the rest as well. While you have to directly fit the crown's gems in the book, Billy doesn't have to do that. Instead, he channels a beam from the blue crystal into the Enchiridion. This mysterious blue gem is also present on the gauntlet of the hero. Interestingly enough, the gauntlet seems to possess some degree of sentience. Maybe this blue gem is how it got its sentience. Another weird and unexplained thing about Billy is his secret connection to Finn's father, Martin Mertens. In the original storyboard, Martin was supposed to appear in the episode The Lich instead of Billy's bucket list. In the original storyboard of that episode, we can see Billy telling Finn about him. In this storyboard, Martins is a warrior who was unlawfully trapped in the Crystal Citadel, a prison that's difficult to enter and nearly impossible to escape. Well, this storyline completely changed in the series, since the Martin that we see in the series is everything but a legendary hero. However, in this storyboard, we can see one very interesting detail. In scene 118, panel C, it's possible to read in the description of the holographic animation about Billy's hands pulling Martin to the Crystal Citadel, presuming that Billy knows about Finn's dad because he was the one who put him in the Crystal Citadel. Maybe the reason why Billy is seen to be trying to avoid telling Finn about Martin and only did so after Finn insisted was because he didn't want Finn to know that his father was a criminal. As to why Billy captured Martin in the first place, it's an interesting topic for another video. In any case, Billy's story marks the beginning of Oo's heroic age, but his legacy doesn't end with him. The ideals he stood for and the myths built around his name became the foundation for the next great hero, Finn the Human. From the very first episodes, Finn treats Billy as more than just a hero. He sees him as proof that one person can make a difference in a world ruled by chaos and magic. Over time though, Finn doesn't just follow in Billy's footsteps, he surpasses him. Across both the show and the comics, we watch Finn grow from a kid chasing stories of heroism into a man who becomes one himself. In some versions of the timeline, he even fulfills Billy's role entirely, becoming the kind of myth his younger self once looked up to, and one very good example of it is in the Old Man Finn from the original comics. I won't talk much about this version of Finn since I already did it in my other video, but just look at the designs of this elderly Finn. He looks far more legendary than the one we see in the Distant Lands. A hero who's successfully replaced Billy as Oo's legendary hero. Compared to him, the show Finn looks way more disappointing. This Finn has a very interesting crown or band like Billy. However, there's a difference between their bands. Billy, both the Prime one and Farm World one, had a blue gem, while Finn has a red one, similar to Ice King's gem on his forehead, making it look like some kind of crown. However, I doubt that it really is Ice King's jewel, but it's still a fun possibility. Another distinction of this Finn compared to others is his giant sword, which I assume most likely has some magical properties, and if we look closely, the cloak that he's wearing seems to be made out of bear, which means that just like his hero Billy, he has fought a bear as well. This design makes him look like a giant Viking hero, even though he most likely is just as tall as the other Finn, but as you can see, the design has a lot of effect on how people perceive you. But this doesn't mean that this version of Finn has achieved the legendary status. It looks like most of his versions, if not all, are the same. Even if original Finn is not as badass looking as the comics version, he still is one of Oo's greatest, if not the greatest hero ever. At the beginning of the Come Along With Me intro, we can see a giant statue of Finn, even though it's unfortunately destroyed like most of the other things. The fact that it was built and survived thousands of years says a lot about his legacy. And the person who embodies his legacy, similar to how Finn did with Billy, is none other than Sweet Pea. This is one of the most intriguing and mysterious characters from the whole series. He comes into existence during Escape from the Citadel, when the Lich is splashed by the Citadel Guardian's healing blood. Instead of regenerating into a stronger form, the Lich is overwritten, his flesh rebuilt, his organs renewed, and his entire identity is stripped away. What emerges is a massive baby with no memory of the terror he once was. This rebirth is not played for shock or fear, it's presented as something strangely hopeful. The universe takes the very embodiment of death and gives it a second chance. And that second chance begins with Tree Trunks and Mr. Pig adopting him and giving him a name that erases everything he used to be. Sweet Pea. While his horn's silhouette and towering size hint at the monster he was, Sweet Pea's personality could not be more different. He's gentle, almost painfully kind, eager to help others and quick to trust. In episodes like Gold Stars and Be Sweet, we see him struggling with bullies, panicking when threatened, and suffering from nightmares he can't understand. These recurring visions of the Lich haunt him like the echo of a past life trying to claw its way back. Sweet Pea doesn't recognize them as memories, only as something terrifying and foreign lurking inside him. This internal conflict becomes central to his character. Unlike Billy or Finn, who chose heroism, Sweet Pea must defend himself from his own destiny. Every time he sleeps, every time someone punches him, every time fear overwhelms him, the Lich tries to resurface. The black smoke he releases in Gold Stars, the disembodied voice that speaks through him, these are all reminders that the Lich never truly disappeared. But instead of leaning into this darkness, Sweet Pea fights it, even before he fully understands what it is. And the turning point comes thanks to Finn. Finn's influence on Sweet Pea is quiet, but powerful. Finn understands better than anyone what it means to face an identity crisis, to question who you're supposed to be, whether that comes from a catalyst comet destiny or from the mistakes of your father. In Whispers, Finn helps Sweet Pea confront the Lich directly, not with violence but with reassurance and presence. This moment matters because Sweet Pea doesn't defeat the Lich with power, he defeats him with courage, the same courage that defined Finn's entire life. When Sweet Pea finally vanquishes the Lich's lingering form, it marks the moment he chooses the kind of person he wants to be. The child of destruction becomes a protector. Sweet Pea also possesses unique traits that set him apart from any other hero in the series. He's immune to elemental magic, able to withstand attacks that would destroy normal beings. He's incredibly strong, knocking out Fern with ease. And like Finn, he has a strange connection to the cosmic forces of Ooh. He even recalls being a catalyst comet in Be Sweet, suggesting that his soul carries more than just the Lich's remnants. But perhaps the most interesting part of Sweet Pea's story happens long after Finn's era ends. In Come Along With Me, 1,000 years into the future, Sweet Pea is no longer a frightened child. He has grown into a giant, literally towering over mountains. His hair long, his beard thick, and on his back hangs a massive scabbard containing Finn's Night Sword. This detail is crucial. The Night Sword was Finn's final legendary weapon, the symbol of his adult heroism. And Sweet Pea inheriting it means one thing: he becomes the protector of the far future Ooh. Seeing Sweet Pea roam the ruined world of Ooh with Finn's sword is one of the great visual payoffs of the entire series. The child who once feared his own shadow becomes the guardian of a world Finn once saved. The creature who was born as the Lich, destroyer of worlds, now walks the earth as a silent defender. But there's one very interesting detail about Sweet Pea and his role as a defender of future Ooh. During his time, there is a tyrannical dictator, Gibbon, who rules his kingdom and presumably most of future Ooh with an iron fist. How or why did Sweet Pea allow him to do that? Well, at first glance it might seem strange that he allows someone like Gibbon to rise to power. After all, the Lich was also a being who wanted domination, destruction, and the end of all life. But the difference between them is fundamental, and is the reason Sweet Pea never interferes the way Finn and Jake once interfered against the Lich. The Lich is not a ruler or a tyrant or even a villain in the normal sense. He is absolute cosmic evil, a force of entropy whose entire purpose is to extinguish life itself. The Lich doesn't build societies, he erases them. He doesn't manipulate conflicts, he corrupts existence. Whenever the Lich emerges, there is no gray area, no nuance, no moral ambiguity. He is the end of the story. Gibbon, on the other hand, is not that. He doesn't seek to destroy the world, only to control it. His ascent happens gradually, socially, politically, through influence, charisma, and leadership that eventually mutates into authoritarianism. Where the Lich was a cataclysm, Gibbon is a slow decay. He rises the same way the King of Ooh did, by exploiting systems, not obliterating them. Sweet Pea understands this distinction deeply. He knows that the Lich is a universal threat, a being who must be stopped at all costs. But Gibbon is a person. Flawed, misguided, maybe even cruel, but still a person with the ability to choose a different path. And because Sweet Pea himself managed to escape his destiny as a monster, maybe he believes others deserve the same chance. This is probably why Sweet Pea never sees Gibbon as the same kind of danger the Lich was. One represents annihilation, the other represents corruption, and to Sweet Pea, only one of those requires a hero's sword. However, there's also the possibility that a greater evil will arise again. Even though in the episode of Whispers, with Finn's encouragement, we can see Sweet Pea finding the strength to reject the Lich's influence, it doesn't necessarily mean that the Lich is gone forever. I think there's a very big chance that the Lich still lives deep inside him, a dormant evil that can never truly be destroyed. Instead of succumbing, Sweet Pea seems to have embraced the role of guardian, dedicating his eternity to being stronger than the Lich, ensuring the monster never resurfaces. In this vision of Oo's future, Sweet Pea wanders the land as a silent protector, honing his spirit and his strength. He feels like the Billy of the future Ooh, a giant from another age, carrying the shadow of the Lich inside him, and just like how the Lich came out of Billy, he might be able to do the same when Sweet Pea is close to death or is not strong anymore. In that case, Ooh will need a new hero who will save Ooh from the Lich once again, and who is better suited for that other than Shermy? Shermy already shares a deep link with Oo's past heroes. Living in the same era as Sweet Pea, he may have been admiring him the way Finn once admired Billy, and there's also a strong possibility of him being a literal future reincarnation of Finn. For example, Shermy's personality is similar to that of Finn's in earlier seasons. He's seen holding up the Finn sword in the same pose Finn had at the end of the show's opening sequence, and we also see him interacting with Finn's prosthetic arm that he lost after Golb devoured him, Simon, and Betty. Shermy also carries a satchel, much like Shoko, while Finn carries a backpack, and his head slightly resembles Finn's hat. He even eats cookies shaped like his own head, similar to Finn eating Finn cakes. Shermy is what the future Ooh needs the most. The Ooh of tomorrow is a haunting place. The Candy Kingdom is seemingly gone and is replaced by the Pup Kingdom, who is ruled by a mad dictator. Humans are nowhere to be seen. Candy citizens are trapped in Gumball Guardian, while their princess is trapped in the Ice Prison. The Fire and Slime Kingdoms are in the middle of war, while Ice Thing roams through the chaotic Ooh. Shermy and Beth already have a huge task up ahead of them. They have to overthrow the dictatorship of Gibbon, and when we get a small glimpse of them in Fiona and Cake, they've started revolting against Gibbon. In their revolution, I think several already known characters like Bubblegum, Marceline, and Ice King will join them, since it's hinted that all three of them have their own vendetta against him. Beside them, I also feel like Sweet Pea might help. In the intro of Come Along With Me, we see Beth and Shermy being on the top of Sweet Pea, which hints at the close friendship between these three. I also feel like he was most likely idolized by Shermy and Beth, similar to how Billy was to Finn and Jake, and would love to hear more about them in the future spin-off. In any case, this cycle of heroism will not end with Shermy or Sweet Pea. Someone is destined to inherit their will because Ooh itself demands a hero. As long as the world continues to change, as long as danger rises and hope flickers, the spirit of courage will always find a new vessel. Heroes are not chosen by birth or destiny, but by the moments that call for them. And the next hero might not look like any of the ones that came before. Maybe it will be a human again, or a mutant, or a creature we haven't yet seen. In Ooh, the form never matters, only the heart does. The hero cycle continues not because of fate, but because someone always chooses to stand up when no one else can.